All right, it is 10:05, so we're going to get this webinar started. Hello and hello everyone again. Thank you for attending today's dealership focused webinar for the Clean Vehicle Rebate Project, titled Online EV Sales Tools for Car Dealers. In this webinar, we're going to cover all of the amazing digital tools available on our website, cleanvehiclerebate.org, as well as other websites that were specifically designed to help you leverage EV sales on the floor and as resources to give to customers to take home and do research on their own. Before we hop into the agenda, a couple of housekeeping items. Our team would like to apologize in advance for any technical difficulties we may experience in today's webinar, as we all are working from home. Another note, everyone has been placed on mute, and we will be recording this webinar to share at a later date. Lastly, we will be answering questions throughout the webinar. So we highly suggest participation. So please leave any questions you may have in the chat box and we will answer accordingly. My name is Tim Insalvis and I will be your moderator for today's webinar. I'm currently the Senior Project Coordinator for our dealership and fleet incentive programs here at the Center for Sustainable Energy. I'm also the main point of contact for our Fleet and Rebate Now point of purchase pilot programs. So please feel free to take down my information to inquire about those specific programs. Now a little bit about CSC. CSC is a clean energy focused nonprofit with a single word mission, decarbonize. Our vision is a future with sustainable, equitable, and resilient transportation, buildings, and communities. We do that by administering numerous clean energy programs throughout the US and by offering advisory services, workforce training, and policy guidance. I'd also like to take this time to acknowledge this important time of growth we're experiencing throughout our communities. So I'd like to read a recent post that CSC put on LinkedIn. As an employee of CSC, our organization believes that every one of us has a role to play in dismantling the systems that undermine, undervalue, and harm community of colors. At CSC, we hold equity as a core value and execute on that value through our program work and through affecting the prioritization of equity in both the policy setting and decision-making process. This value goes beyond just the financial environmental equity within our programs, but extends to equity within the daily experience of our communities. To the Black community, we stand with you. And on that note, we'll go over today's agenda. I'm joined by several colleagues from our dealership outreach team here at CSC, and they'll be going over all of the digital resources available on our website, as well as where info and tools can be found for other incentives. First, our dealership and EV specialist, Joe Ficalora, will go over the importance of these resources and how you can use them to sell EVs. Next, the rest of our team will give an overview of the CVRP website and how to navigate to important program requirements and details. Next, we will cover the dealership-specific resources available for you to utilize, as well as the consumer-facing resources that you can share with potential customers. Lastly, we will cover how to find additional incentives and rebates in your region, as well as highlight other online resources that will help you sell EVs. Next, I'd like to note that we do have several ways for you and your dealership staff to get in contact with us. On each section slide, you will notice regional representatives. So we urge you to write down their info, or you can always contact us through the dealership hotline, which I will send out in the chat shortly. Our contact info can also be found throughout the website and on our collateral, but it's important to note that we do have two main different hotlines. One for potential customers who are applying and one for dealership staff who have questions about the program requirements or to schedule an info session. Last but not least, to keep this webinar engaging, we will be polling the audience throughout the webinar to better understand our dealerships and how we can best support you during these times. So the more participation, the better. And on that note, we'll hop into our first poll. We'll give the audience about 20 seconds to answer and then we'll go over the results. And the poll should be launching on your side. So what California region is your dealership in? Are you in the San Diego/Orange County area, LA/Inland Empire, Sacramento/Central Valley, Bay Area, or Northern California? Give you about 5 more seconds to answer the poll. Alrighty, thanks for that participation. It looks like the majority of our attendees are from the LA/Inland Empire. So you definitely want to keep an eye out for Bridget Tai as well as Matthew Henderson, as they are your representatives in those regions. So now I'd like to kick it off to Joe Ficalora. He's our EV and dealership specialist, and he's going to go over the importance of these resources and how to use them to sell EVs. Take it away, Joe.
Thanks, Tim. Hi, everyone. I'm Joe Ficalora, the EV dealership specialist here at the Center for Sustainable Energy. I've been working in or around the auto industry for the past 10 years. I've had every position inside the dealership while working for Ford, Hyundai, Mazda, and Nissan. When I was working for Nissan, I sold the first EV, the first Leaf out of the dealership. So I know the struggle firsthand of selling EVs, the customers, their grinds, the mini deals. Normally it's 7 steps to the sale when you're selling an EV. Back then it was 1 million steps to the sale. There were a lot of different questions that customers had that you don't typically have when you're selling an internal combustion engine vehicle. I want to stress right now that we're not here to teach you how to sell cars or EVs. You guys have that process down pat. The sales process inside the dealership hasn't changed for over 60 years because it works. And we're not going to, try and change that process. We're here to help support you and the dealership and make that process a little more streamlined when selling an EV. I think the resources that we have here, they're educational for you inside the dealership, as well as information that you can give to customers to help educate them on the questions that they have, when buying an EV, just to make that whole process a lot easier for you guys and girls inside the dealership. And before I hand it back off to Tim, please, you have my information in front of you. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'll throw the baton back to Tim.
Right on. Thank you, Joe. Yeah, I think it's really important to know because of these recent shelter-in-place orders due to COVID, we understand your dealerships are not only facing slow, if not closed showrooms, but also low staff numbers and less face-to-face interactions with customers. So we really urge you to use these digital resources and tools within your sales process to really help leverage that sale. So next, I'm going to pass it over to Bridget Tai. She is our dealership outreach coordinator in Central LA and Inland Empire, and she's going to go over the program overview. Take it away, Bridget.
Thank you, Tim. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Like Tim said, my name is Bridget Tai. I'm based in LA, so please feel free to contact me with any questions. The purpose of this webinar, as it's kind of been touched on before, is just to make it easier for all of you, and we're a resource. And today I'll be covering the program background and goals, our website, funding status, eligibility guidelines, CVRP rebate now, CVRP for fleets, and frequently asked questions. To start, to give you a brief program background, the Center for Sustainable Energy administers Clean Vehicle Rebate projects throughout the state for the California Air Resource Board, known as CARB. CARB is a part of the California Environmental Protection Agency. Cal EPA strives to promote
Uh-oh, Bridget, we might have lost your audio on that. All right, it looks like Bridget's having some technical difficulties. So while she gets back logged into the webinar, I will kind of go over where she left off. I think she was mentioning the program goals. So CVRP is really designed to promote the purchase of clean vehicles and really help the acceleration and the adoption of clean vehicles. California has a very lofty goal of 5 million zero-emission vehicles by 2030. And we're all very happy to help you as stewards within the car dealership help sell EVs and help reach that goal. So to give you an overview of the program and the website, there's a lot of resources within our webpage. So this is the homepage here. We have everything for resources for car dealers and resources for car shoppers. They're also planning to go over the Dealer Hub, which is a specific webpage just for dealers with lots of resources there. And it looks like Bridget's back. So I'm going to let her take over a section and continue the webinar. Take it away, Bridget.
Hello, everybody. It wouldn't be a virtual webinar or conference or meeting if there wasn't technical issues. So with that, I believe that we are talking about the website overview, and I'm not sure exactly what Tim touched on, but really this website is here as a resource for both dealers and car shoppers. The Dealer Hub in particular, to the target audience here, which is dealerships, is you will be able to find many resources to distribute to your teams as well as flyers for customers. You'll find details regarding eligibility guidelines, information relating to CVRP, as well as other incentives. And these will be discussed in more depth later in this presentation, but this is also where applicants apply to receive a rebate, can check the status of their application, and find real-time funding status updates. And as always, if you cannot find what you're looking for, if you have any questions, or if you just want to chat, the Contact Us webpage has all of our contact information listed. Which brings us, I'll give you a bit of insight into our funding. CVRP funding is determined by an annual funding plan. This plan is developed with public input and approved by CARB. The screenshot here is of our funding status webpage. This is where you can find real-time funding status updates by going to cleanvehiclerebate.org, and from the homepage, click the Data and Reporting tab, and you'll select the drop-down titled Available Funding. As you can see, the graph is broken up to reflect both standard versus increased rebates. Specifically, there's funding reserved for low to moderate income consumers, and as long as there's funding, eligible applicants will continue to receive their rebates. Which brings us to who is eligible to receive a rebate. First, I will discuss applicant eligibility, and then I will go over the vehicle eligibility requirements. So California residents are eligible to receive one rebate per lifetime with the purchase or lease of a new eligible vehicle. They must apply within 3 months of their purchase or lease, and there is additionally an income cap requirement. Applicants' income cannot exceed $150,000 single file or $300,000 joint file. And now for vehicle eligibility, there are a few very, very important things to note. First, the vehicle must be purchased or leased in the state of California and owned and operated here for 30 months. Second, the vehicle cannot have previously been registered. And third, these requirements were updated in December 2019 to include a base MSRP of less than $60,000 and also a minimum of 35-mile electric range requirement. If you have any questions regarding which vehicles are eligible, you can find a complete list on the cleanvehiclerebate.org. As you see in the screenshot at the top of the page, there's a search engine that allows you to filter by OEM to find which specific vehicles associated to those OEMs are eligible. If you cannot find the vehicle you're looking for, the box at the bottom of the screen, "Why don't I see my vehicle here?" link will lead you to important information about the eligibility requirements and guidelines, as well as details about specific vehicles, why they might not be listed. Lastly, it's important to note that vehicle manufacturers must apply for CVRP eligibility with CARB. CSE does not handle this application process. We are just informed merely of which vehicles are eligible. And for those of you who are joining us from San Diego area, this will be particularly important for y'all. CVRP Rebate Now is a pilot program offered only to San Diego County residents, and it allows car shoppers to get pre-approved for their CVRP rebate online prior to even visiting a dealership. Consumers can then use their pre-approved rebate as a down payment at the time of sale or lease at those participating dealerships countywide. And there at the bottom, you see Tim's contact information again. And if you have any questions or if you would like to get enrolled in this program and you're in the San Diego area, please do not hesitate to reach out to him. And then CARB also offers, in addition to all the things we discussed before, CVRP for public fleets. With a standard CVRP rebate for all California public entities and increased incentives for those entities operating in California's most vulnerable and pollution burden areas. Now, as you will see here on the screen, there are 3 different fleet programs for different types of fleet organizations. Public fleets are for local or state entities and are allowed 30 rebates annually. Public fleets can also qualify for an increased rebate of $2,500 if they are located in a disadvantaged community. Car sharing and rental fleets are allowed 20 rebates annually. Although they do not qualify for an increased rebate, vehicles are eligible for a reduced ownership provision of up to $1,800 if owned for less than 30 months, but more than 1 year. And this amount depends on the specific vehicle type. And then lastly, the third category is kind of a catch-all for businesses, nonprofits, federal entities, tribal communities. They are allowed 1 rebate per lifetime and do not qualify for an increased rebate. They can apply within 3 months after the purchase of an eligible vehicle. And as we discussed before, all the different applicant and vehicle eligibility guidelines are still reflected here. They must adhere to those same vehicle eligibility requirements that we showed on our website, and they have to be listed there. And lastly, our frequently asked questions webpage it's a really great resource, and it's kind of a catch-all. So if you have any questions regarding the program, application process, or anything relating to CVRP, you can find it here. And I'll just point out a few questions that we frequently get. One of them is, what supporting documents do I need to submit for my application? And here, in a very concise, helpful way, each of the different types of applicant, government, business, nonprofit, individual, it's broken down and shows you what exactly you need. Additionally, a question we frequently get is, how long will it take to receive my rebate? And the answer that we typically give is that it takes between 3 to 5 months. It could be quicker than that, but we like to be conservative with our approximation. And lastly, before I pass it back to Tim, I just wanted to reiterate that the CVRP dealership team is here for you as a partner. We're always looking for ways to make it easier for y'all to sell EVs, and I really look forward to working with you. And please do not hesitate to reach out to me, and even if you just want to say hi. With that, thank you again for your time, and I'll pass it back to you, Tim.
Right on. Thank you, Bridget, for going over the CVRP program overview. A little fun note, it is Bridget's birthday, so shoot her a happy birthday. Happy birthday, Bridget. And that is her contact information. So if you're in the Central LA and Inland Empire regions, please reach out to her if you have any questions or want to schedule a virtual information session. Next up, we have CJ Noble. He is our dealership outreach coordinator in the Bay Area, and he's going to go over dealership-specific resources that you can utilize. Go ahead and take it away, CJ.
Thanks so much, Tim. Good morning, everyone. Like Tim said, my name is CJ. I am the dealership outreach coordinator for the Greater Bay Area and Peninsula, and I'm going to be running over resources available for download and by request that provide detailed program information in order to help your dealership teams to increase EV sales. To start out, I'll show you how to find the CVRP poster and brochure. So beginning on the homepage for the website, under the resources tab here in the upper right, we're going to navigate to the dealer hub that Bridget was talking about earlier by clicking on the tab that says for dealers. Now, the dealer hub has several different web pages that provide resources like flyers, brochures, guides, program overviews, as well as just information on Rebate Now and the savings calculator. Bridget touched on a few of those already, but I'm going to be focusing on the Auto Dealer's Guides to EV and the Dealer Resources sections. To access the dealership poster, we're going to jump into the Dealer Resources in the top right there. So here on the Dealer Resources page, you'll see there are posters, brochures, information on additional incentives, a list of eligible vehicles, and a technology overview. Now, whenever dealers ask me what they can give to their staff who don't know the ins and outs of the program, I point them here to the incentive overview poster. If you click this link in the top left here, it'll take you to a downloadable version of what you'll see here. This poster is a great resource because it covers so much about CVRP, from the eligibility requirements to the additional incentives. So this kind of thing would be great to print out and hang up in your sales tower or in your break room for your staff to access. You'll see in the top left there is going to be the rebate amounts for the different types of eligible EVs. Right next to that is the increased rebate amounts as well, including the eligibility requirements for low to moderate income customers. On the bottom left-hand side of the page, you'll see are the overall eligibility requirements, including the income eligibility, the program eligibility, the vehicle eligibility, all those details that can be a little tougher to memorize. Up in the top right, it's going to talk about the application process itself, what a customer has to do in order to apply for the rebate. And then that box there on the right-hand side is going to talk about the additional incentives, including the federal income tax credit, the regional incentives, the clean vehicle decal, as well as the savings calculator. Now, down at the bottom of the first page here is also where you're going to find both consumer and dealer contact information, but we'll run over a little bit about that a little later too. On the back side of this poster, which I do not have pulled up here, is information about unwinds, rollbacks, and demo vehicles. This is a detail that Bridget addressed earlier, but it is often overlooked, so I do want to reemphasize it. Unwinds, rollbacks, and demos are only eligible if they meet other stated requirements, have no prior registration, and are under 7,500 miles. Important to keep in mind. Moving forward, on the flip side of things, when dealers ask me what they can give to customers to explain CVRP, preferably without scaring them off with a bunch of nitty-gritty details, I point them to the consumer-facing brochure. To get there, we're going to go back over to the Dealer Resources Hub here, and we're going to jump into the CVRP Consumer Brochure link. Now, this page has a PDF of that brochure and its inserts. This brochure is directed towards car shoppers, so the information you're going to see here is going to be a condensed version of what you would find in the dealership-directed poster. It's a great reference for dealerships, so you can see what consumers see, and it's great to have on hand for sales reps who are looking to provide customers with resources on eligible EVs. You can see here the brochure provides a summary of the program, the general and increased rebate amounts, some basic eligibility requirements, and the additional incentives available. I can't stress enough how helpful it is to have this on hand for customers, because it puts the information right into their hands, and suddenly they feel like they're making money by buying that EV. Now, this brochure will typically come with inserts as well, which are just going to be extra flyers you can slip into the brochure. And these make a world of difference in answering some of the most frequently asked questions you'll get from consumers. For example, we've got these three inserts here to go along with the brochure. On the far left there is EV 101, explaining the differences between each type of EV. In the middle is Charging 101, with the basics on the differences between each type of EV charger. And finally, on the right-hand side there is an example of a region-specific incentive insert. Now, this particular one is for the Bay Area Air District and provides a breakdown of both this program, CVRP, and an additional one, Clean Cars for All, each of which have different incentives for customers to switch to an eligible EV. Coley will dive into the benefits of this particular program a little later in the webinar, but each of these inserts here would have a backside as well, and would be included with the consumer brochure to help inform customers. Now, we know that figuring out the logistics of EVs is a process in itself, and that learning the nitty-gritty details about EVs can feel like a hassle when each customer has a nearly endless amount of questions about them. In our efforts to try to make that a little bit easier, we collaborated with the California New Car Dealers Association to create the Auto Dealer's Guide to EVs. This guide is an absolute wealth of knowledge in all things EV, and is an incredible reference for addressing the more difficult questions you're going to be asked. To get access to this guide, it's a little bit different from the brochure and poster though. You begin here at the Dealer Hub again by clicking on that Auto Dealer's Guide to EVs tab on the left there. Once in there, you'll have to click on a button at the bottom of the page that says Request EV Guide, It'll look like this button on the left-hand side here, and that will redirect you to the dealership contact page. From here, you'll simply fill out these fields with the required contact information, ensure the box that says Request Auto Dealer's Guide to EVs is checked, and click Send Message. You'll get a copy of this guide in your email once CVRP has identified your dealership. Now, looking at the guide itself, you'll find a range of topics like these, going into detail on the different types of EVs, addressing the differences in selling them, and picking apart some of the common misconceptions you'll be running into. I'll show you a few of my favorite sections that I use to answer people's questions about EVs when I'm asked. Now, one of the first sections is going to answer some of the questions that everyone and their mother will be asking their sales team about EVs. Some of those questions that it's going to touch on are going to be things like, what if I live in an apartment and I want to buy an EV? How much do charging stations cost? And what do I do for longer road trips? A lot of these questions can be a little bit more difficult to jump into and can have very specific answers that people are looking for, but this guide will help make that a little bit easier. Tina will be running over some more of this information a little later in the webinar as well. Now, a lot of your customers will also be coming in with questions specific to charging, how it works, how much it costs, and will they be able to do it at home? Here, the guide answers all of those questions in greater detail by defining the different types of chargers, identifying how to locate public ones, and explaining how to establish and minimize costs for at-home charging stations. This information can feel a little bit technical to customers sometimes, but the guide breaks it down so the information is easy to reference. Finally, just to make sure that you have absolutely everything you need in one place, we utilize this last section to provide you a list of all the additional resources you would need to help address customer questions. This includes links to things like general information about EVs, additional incentives that are available, how to apply for the clean vehicle decal through the DMV, charging locator apps, comparisons on fuel economy, and links to the CVRP website. It's super helpful because each of the titles that you see here on the right side have a hyperlink to the related website. For those of you that are interested as well, later down the line, we are going to be hosting a webinar on the information covered in this guide too. Now, while we hope that we can manage to answer all of your questions about CVRP in this webinar today, we know that there are bound to be a few things that pop up for both you and your consumers later down the line. So we want to make sure that you know how to get a hold of our team when you need us. We've got two different pages to reference for getting into contact with our team, one for dealers and one for customers. First up, I will pull the page for dealer-related contact information. Starting out from the Dealer Hub again, we'll simply click this button at the very bottom of the page that says Contact Dealership Specialist. That's going to take us back to a page that we saw earlier. You might notice that this is the same page as the one that we found when requesting the EV guide. Conveniently, all of your dealership needs are going to be in one place here on this page. So for dealer questions, you just need to navigate here, fill out this form like you did for the Auto Dealer's Guide. And if you prefer, you can also just use the contact information at the very bottom of the page here you see on the right-hand side. That's going to have the phone number and the email for the team. A lot of dealers that I've talked to since the shelter in place have said that they want to use this time to get in some extra training for their sales staff. For that, I always recommend utilizing our info sessions, which you can request on this page by clicking that box you see on the list here on the right-hand side. Now, an info session is going to be when your regional coordinator visits your dealership and gives a presentation on CVRP to your staff. And that includes details on things like the eligibility requirements, the additional incentives, and the increased rebates. Presentations are typically going to be between 15 and 30 minutes long, and they're going to be tailored to your region. So they'll address the additional incentives available in your area. Most of the time, dealers would just have us drop into their staff meetings to run over the program and answer questions for everyone on the sales team at once. With the current state of the world being as it is, we are doing video conference call versions of the info sessions to get you that information. These calls are a great opportunity to get your sales team caught up on all of the details for the program and additional incentives that help sell your EVs faster. If you're interested in doing an info session, you can get into contact with your regional representative or send a message here through the website Just make sure that you use that comment section to provide a few dates and times that work for you. We are also going to do a quick poll on info sessions at the end of this section, so keep an eye out for that as well. All right, so that was the page that you'll use to get in contact with our team if you're with a dealership. On the other side of things, if you have a customer who needs help with their application process, or somebody that just has questions about their rebate and the processing of it, you'll want to direct them to the consumer-facing contact page. To navigate there, you'll just hover over where it says Help in the top right hand of the website, and you'll click on the Contact Us button there. Here you'll see that there is a phone number and email for dealers, consumers, and fleets, all in one place for your staff and your customer needs. All right, those were our dealer-facing resources. Thanks so much for your time, y'all. I am going to go ahead and pass it back to Tim now.
Right on. Thank you, CJ, for covering the dealership-specific resources available on cleanvehiclerebate.org. Looks like we have a question in the chat. Would we be able to receive the PowerPoint presentation via email? Yes, this will be recorded and this PowerPoint will be sent out a couple of weeks past this webinar. We also suggest if you do want some sort of presentation, contact us for a virtual info session. We'll be more than happy to give the presentation as well as answer any specific questions you may have. So on that note, we actually wanted to poll the audience. Would you be interested in a virtual info session for more in-depth and personal training of your dealership? Give everyone about 15 more seconds. All righty, closing the poll. And it looks like 86% of you answered yes, so that's great. Like I mentioned, please write down your regional representative's information. We will also have the contact info at the end of the webinar for you to write down. Or you can utilize any of the tools that CJ has covered on our website to get in contact with us. All right, oops. Sorry about that, looks like I'm missing a slide. Next up, we do have Tanner from Orange County and San Diego regions, and he will be covering the dealership, the consumer-facing resources available via cleanvehiclerebate.org.
All right, awesome. Sorry, my contact page is not up there at the beginning, but I'll make sure everyone has access to me, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. Again, I'm the dealership outreach coordinator for San Diego and Orange counties. The resources that I plan to go over today are designed specifically with consumers in mind, and this is to help answer questions about technology, rebate amounts, and tools available on our website, cleanvehiclerebate.org. Four main areas I will touch on are car shopper resources, of EV tech and charging, overview of our savings calculator, and the EV guide for consumers. To access the consumer resources page, you'll just begin by hovering your mouse over the resources tab. Once the drop-down bar populates, you'll click for car shoppers. The car shoppers resources page is broken into 6 different sections. The first section is community incentive assistance. It features information on clean transportation movements local to your community in California. And there are also videos explaining EVs. They debunk some common misconceptions that are related to electric vehicles, help you decide if an EV is right for you, and gives you a few reasons to go electric that you might not be aware of. You can also get involved by signing up for our quarterly newsletter or attending local events. Our EV benefits page allows consumers to discover the advantages of driving electric by reducing harsh environmental impacts, saving on fuel costs, and just the overall efficiency of EVs. For example, an electric vehicle has instant on-demand torque due to less moving parts. For further explanation of EVs, check out our technology overview section. The tech overview section explains the different types of powertrains, powering EVs, and the charging that coincides. Online EV resources is a great place to read reviews about EVs with links and tools comparing traditional gasoline-powered cars to various EVs. Our rebates and incentives section is exactly that. It differentiates the state versus federal rebates, as well as information about the HOV lane access and other incentives that Coley will touch on after me. You can check out driver testimonials in the remaining section of our Car Shopper resources page to hear what others have to say since making the switch to electric. Now let's explore some of these sections further. Electric vehicle technology can be really intimidating by itself when you pair that with the different charging equipment. It's also known as electric vehicle supply equipment. It can begin to feel pretty overwhelming. There are 4 main types of EVs and 3 levels of charging, and we have this page can provide a clear understanding of the components required when operating an EV powertrain. One of my favorite tools in this section is the interactive charging station map. This map is located at the top of the electric vehicle charging overview page and is provided by Brochure. Brochure is the app I actually find myself most partial to and use frequently. For example, you are planning a trip to the San Diego Zoo, but upon arrival, you will need to charge your EV in order to return home. All you'd have to do is go to the San Diego Zoo, type that in the search bar on the interactive map, and then charging options most relevant to that area will appear. Charging styles and availability will be displayed, as well as other amenities provided at that station. At the bottom of EV charging overview, there is a list of the different utility providers offering additional rebates for installing various EVSE on your home or property for tenants or yourself. Another great tool that we have provided you with is the savings calculator. The savings calculator provides you with the list of incentives available to that specific customer and their region. Now, it is important that consumers they're responsible for conducting independent research to see what applies to them, what is eligible, and what they can stack. This is a link that I encourage sales staff to bookmark and use with their customers while negotiating. Using data provided by the CNCDA, I've completed an example of the savings calculator for you. We chose the zip code 92020, which is local to San Diego. Household size of 3. Income is between $57,939,000 and $77,000. It's going to be a new battery electric EV. And we were going to retire a car for scrap, and our utility provider is SDG&E. So with that, it qualifies us for possibly $5,500 off a new car. Remember, as I said, it's up to the customer's discretion to research on their own. But after entering Mr. Customer's information, the incentives they may qualify for will appear. And this is a closing tool that I wish I would have had when I was on the sales floor myself. Please refer to it as much as necessary. Within our online EV resources page, there is an EV guide, not to be confused with the EV guide mentioned earlier by CJ. This page is designed to help customers get key information on different types of EVs eligible for rebates. It can be found under this section along with many other helpful tools such as ways to access the charging maps and various other resources. This is great because not only does it provide the vehicle MSRP and rebate amount, but it also shows the model specific range and eligibility for the separate federal tax credit. It's a fun way to just scroll through and compare not only the vehicle specifications, but styling as well. There may be cars on the EV guide list that shock you by offering an electric variant as opposed to an alternative gasoline model. Lastly, I would like to introduce you to our newly developed EV Car Shopper checklist. This is designed to help you discover the many financial and environmental advantages of purchasing an EV. This concludes my section of the webinar, but I want to thank everyone again for your support with the adoption of EVs and helping the state of California in its goal to have 5 million EVs on the road by 2030. And my contact information is in front of you now. Again, my apologies on not having that for you sooner.
All righty, thank you, Tanner, for covering consumer-specific resources for selling EVs. So as we've seen, CJ covered dealership-specific resources. So these are tools that you guys can use within the sales floor, at home, to study and educate. And then Tanner covered consumer-facing resources. So these are great tools to send your customers home with, forward them along within emails. That way they can do the research at home. Next up, we have Coley Garcia. She's going to cover additional incentives and other online resources to utilize. Coley is the dealership outreach coordinator for the Sacramento and Central Valley area, so please feel free to write down her information. And with that note, I'll let Coley take it away.
Hi, everyone. As Tim said, my name is Coley Garcia. I'm the dealership outreach coordinator for the Sacramento and Central Valley area. Today, I'm going to be covering additional incentives. So to access this page on our website, you are going to start at our homepage and then select 4 dealers from the resource drop-down menu. From there, you will select dealer resources and then additional incentives. Okay, so this is the homepage of additional incentives overview that's available on our website. I do want to highlight that CSE does not administrate these additional incentives, but the dealer team is always here to answer any basic questions or provide contact information for those administrators. I will be covering the federal tax credit, HOV lane access, and air district and utility rebates. So starting with the federal tax credit. Yes, this page is shared with the state rebate, but these are 2 completely different incentives. The tax credit is provided by the federal government. Newly purchased battery electric and plug-in hybrids may be eligible for the credit, and the credit's going to range from $2,500 to $7,500 depending on the battery capacity. I want to highlight that once a manufacturer EV sales exceeds 200,000, that tax credit is going to begin to phase out. Another thing to keep in mind and let customers know is that the credit amount is affected by your personal tax liability. The dealer team as well as CSE employees will not be able to give any advice or touch on personal tax liabilities. So I highly recommend to contact an IRS rep if a consumer wants more information about their personal taxes. So on our page, we give a direct link to fueleconomy.gov, and you can access that by clicking tax credit amount next to the red arrow. That's going to bring you directly to fueleconomy.gov tax credit page. You are able to view all vehicles that are eligible for a tax credit and where that credit stands. It's extremely user-friendly, and I've highlighted some of the filter tables. So I went ahead and I selected for this example all. That way you can see all electric or plug-in hybrids, and the manufacturer I selected was Honda. That populated 2 vehicles that are eligible for the full credit. What's very interesting, and I want to touch on it, is that they're both plug-in hybrids. However, the second, the Honda Clarity plug-in hybrid 2018 to 2020, is for the full credit amount $7,500, and that's because it's based on the battery capacity. To the right, it shows that the phase-out process has not started. So that means the EV sales has not exceeded 200,000. Lastly, at the bottom, make sure that you are viewing the updated date. So this shows that it was last updated last month on the 14th. So you could be aware that there might be some possible updates to that credit amount. Before we leave this website, I want to highlight, or actually I just want to encourage people to visit it. It's a great resource for information and gives visual tools that you can use for customers. Ever since I got in this position, I'm always asked, do you really save money going EV? Or like with plug-in hybrids, are you really not going to the gas station all the time? And instead of people having to take your word for it, you can visually show them using these tools on fueleconomy.gov how much they're going to save. My personal favorite that I'm going to highlight real quick is the fuel savings calculator. So on this website, if you go to Save Money and Fuel, and then you click on Fuel Savings Calculator next to the red arrow, you'll be able to visually show customers side-by-side comparison. So this is what will populate. You're able to choose two vehicles, vehicle A and B, and compare side-by-side fuel costs. You're also able to edit it to your personal driving habits, and it'll show you over 10 years of fuel savings. Another great perk, since we are talking about additional incentives, is HOV lane access. So you want to move into the carpool lane by driving electric, and you don't need a passenger. So that's really cool. This is Clean Air and Vehicle Program. It's commonly known as CAV decal, and it's actually administered by the DMV, which not a lot of people know. The DMV will issue different color decals each year for a maximum of 4 years. So that's dependent on when the DMV releases these decals, not when it's in your possession. So if you take 2 years to get your decal, you're only getting 2 years of that HOV lane access. Another program that they have that I feel like a lot of people don't know about is an income-based CAV decal program. This is for new vehicle owners of a used vehicle. Now, there are a lot more annual income eligibility guidelines, and it does have to be from a specific year base from the previous car owner to the new car owner, but it's really cool that they have this new program for used vehicles. Another thing I want to highlight that is a common confusion is that you have to choose between the HOV decal and the state rebate. That's not correct. The only time you have to choose between one or the other is if you purchase a new fuel cell and you are over the income cap of the state rebate. Other than that, as long as you are eligible for the state rebate, you can apply for the HOV lane decal. So I want to highlight that. Lastly, on our website, we have all available resources to apply for the CAV decal. So we have the eligible vehicle list, we have the DMV application, we provide a PO box, as well as a direct link to their website. So if you ever have anyone interested, we have all that for you on the HOV lane access page. Lastly, we're going to cover the Air District and Utility EV rebate. So this is a very diverse page, so I'm first going to quickly explain how the page layout is, and then we'll go from there. So there's 4 different categories. We have new electric vehicle rebate, electric vehicle home charging rebate, used electric vehicle rebate, and regional vehicle replacement program. Next, there's 3 categories. So you're going to have your utility air, your air district or your utility program provider. Then you'll have the program name. This will be the incentive name. And it's neat because we give you a direct link to that specific incentive. The last column is the maximum rebate amount. So that doesn't necessarily mean that is what the applicant will receive, but it's great to see possibilities. Next, I'm going to provide an example of how you would utilize this very diverse page. So let's say, for example, I want a replacement program. I'm ready to turn my car in and get a new one. So I'm going to scroll down to Regional Vehicle Replacement Program. Hypothetically, I'm in the Bay Area region. So I see that there's a program called Clean Cars for All, and the maximum rebate amount is $9,500, which is amazing. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Clean Cars for All, and it will take me directly to their homepage. Like I stated earlier, I know that CSE does not administrate this incentive, so it's very important to view or encourage consumers to view the program overview and eligibility guidelines, because every program will have different eligibility guidelines. I want to give a hats off to this website because it was very easy. As you can see next to the red arrow that's right on their homepage, I was able to view their program overview and understand their eligibility guidelines easily. Just by being on their page for 10 minutes, I was able to realize that you would apply and receive a pre-inspection for your vehicle to verify if you're eligible. If eligible, you will receive a grant amount ranging from $2,000 to $9,500, depending on your household income and what vehicle you are going to choose next. That being a hybrid, plug-in hybrid, EV, or even a clipper card. You will then turn in your old vehicle to an authorized dismantler. I also want to pause and kind of just say how cool I thought it was that a clipper card was an option. It's widely known that the Bay Area uses public transportation, and it was really neat that they included that as an option. The reason the grant ranges depending on the amount is depending on what vehicle or clipper card you choose moving forward. That concludes my section of additional incentives. I want to thank everybody for listening today, and I look forward to hosting some virtual info sessions. Thank you.
Right on, Coley. Thank you for that presentation and covering additional incentives. As you can see, a lot of this information is housed within cleanvehiclerebate.org, and we provide direct links to the external websites to get more detailed information. Again, you can visit our website to find resources to promote our rebate, the CVRP program, but also additional incentives. Next up, we have Matthew Henderson. He is our Senior Dealership Outreach Coordinator for West LA and Central Coast, and he will be covering other online resources as well as CVRP data and reporting. Take it away, Mateo.
Thank you, Coley. It's great the number of the state incentives for purchasing EVs, adding more to California's roadways and improving the air quality for us all. So there's a lot of great work happening here. I'm Matthew Henderson, Senior Dealership Coordinator, and I focus on West LA and Central Coast dealerships. Now that we have reviewed the CVRP program and incentives, I want to guide us all to additional resources that educate and promote EV adoption statewide. Do any of you come across car shoppers who are unsure of what they want, interested in purchasing an EV, know there are sizable rebates available, but unclear with how it all works? So many variables, huh? Well, given circumstances, dealership sales staff have a great opportunity to become further knowledgeable with everything EV by going to the driveclean.org website, which is a clean car buying guide developed by CARB for EV shoppers, adopters, and dealerships. Drive Clean is accessible for you and your customers to further understand electric vehicle statistics, incentives, and EV knowledge. The main feature of Drive Clean I want to highlight for you all is accessing the For Dealers tab, which provides valuable information into everything EV. I encourage all to become familiar and search around. You will find what you are looking for, I'm sure. Has your EV shopper ever asked you what vehicles are the cleanest and emit the less? DriveClean.org offers an incentives and vehicle statistic calculator that identifies the right EV for your customer. By searching the Vehicle Incentives tab, you can gather the best available information to help your customers decide on what their purchase is. If you familiarize yourself with the vehicle search tool here, you can offer customers additional insight into their EV selection and reference the greenhouse gas emissions and smog ratings, with a scale of 1 being the worst to 10 being the best. This is based on the U.S. vehicle emission standards. And of course, with any battery electric or fuel cell, the ratings will be 0. But for plug-in hybrid, ratings will vary depending on model. So here I prefer a rating of 10 for both greenhouse gas and smog because I want to support my wallet and improve the air quality we breathe. I've also highlighted the Chevy Bolt as a battery electric as my vehicle of choice. And as you can see, the drop-down box provides full vehicle statistics from ratings, annual fuel costs to electric range, and of course, the incentives. There are many ways of retrieving vehicle data and their incentives on this page, but I wanted to simply review one of the many features. DriveClean.org is a dealer's resource for leveraging EV sales and to learn more about clean and efficient cars, charging and fueling locations, and fuel prices. Please locate these helpful tools and calculators accessible through the Resources tab under Facts and Guides and Tools and Calculators for in-depth knowledge of vehicle carbon footprints, fuel calculators, brochures, and facts. I know this is a lot of information, so please explore the additional resources available and have some fun. There's a lot of great information. With all the great resources from DriveClean.org, I want to dive deeper into EV customer behavior and provide some data that identifies EV buyers' motivation, dealership experience, and decision factors via the CVRP website in the survey dashboard accessible in the Data and Reporting tab over to my right. But first, I want to highlight that to date, over 371,000 CVRP rebates have been administered to California residents, estimating a total amount of over $850 million. CVRP is a significant program. It is as important for customer savings as it is for dealership sales. While car shoppers go online and to talk to friends about electric cars, dealers are often an EV car shopper's main source of information. Here in the Dealership Experience tab, I'm going to pull some data for the Electric Vehicle Consumer Survey, which was completed by Center for Sustainable Energy. This survey had over 40,000 respondents, of which were customers who purchased or leased an eligible clean vehicle and actually received a rebate. Here in the Dealership Experience tab from the online dashboard, it was identified that 60% of car shoppers think it's very valuable for a salesperson to know about government financial incentives, and 31% of respondents considered it valuable. So we can see here clearly the importance of dealer knowledge and how it influences EV shoppers. Over 90% of shoppers identify dealers as valuable to their buying experience. You all are good. Furthermore, what are your top EV selling points? From the survey of 19,000 respondents, they prioritized the top 3 most important reasons to acquiring an EV. 38% agreed that cost savings was the most important, followed by 22% identifying environmental impact as a contributing factor to purchasing an EV, while 17% want access to the carpool lane. Well, who doesn't want access to the carpool lane, especially in Los Angeles? So many takeaways here, and I want to remind everyone attending this webinar that yes, there is overwhelming information, lots and lots of information for dealers to sell more EVs. So please continue growing your relationships with your CVRP regional representative and use us as a resource. It's our job to support you dealerships so that everyone has access to electric vehicles. We want to increase your sales as well. thank you, and I'm going to pass it over to Tim for an overview of CVRP Partner Kit, and feel free to reach out to me. Again, my name is Matthew Henderson. Back to you, Tim.
Thank you, Matthew. Yeah, as you mentioned, you can see there are lots of resources for you to utilize and pass along to customers. So it's best to, as he said, explore them yourselves and find out what works best for you and it's easy for you to relay to customers. So next up, we wanted to highlight our CVRP Partner Kit that our marketing, education, and outreach teams have been working very hard on. We know that support during these times of low staff and slow showrooms is very important. So these resources that we included in this partner kit were designed to help you during these times. So some of these resources include a content kit, which would provide messaging templates to use for the website, within emails, or even social media imagery and text. Another resource is the Car Shopper Resources Checklist, which Tanner covered over earlier. As you remember, this list provides direction to the car shopper so they can get educated at home. And lastly, the Auto Dealer's Guide to EVs that CJ covered, which you saw is a great resource to train staff on the benefits of EVs, as well as answers to common misconceptions and answering our questions. Now, I'd like to quickly take one last poll to gauge the audience on what resources within this partner kit you would find most helpful. So we're gonna switch over to a poll here. It's the last poll for the day. What form of digital support from the content kit would you most likely utilize? Is it website add-ons? Is it social media support or email templates? Or car shoppers resources? Or the EV guide? And we highly encourage everyone to participate in this last poll as it'll help us shape this content kit that we're creating for you. We'll spend a little bit more time on things that you're actually going to utilize and you think would be most beneficial to you in the sales process. And I'll give it 10 more seconds. Alrighty, thank you everyone for voting. And the results are in. Looks like the majority of you, well, it's even split between website add-ons and car shopper resources. I'd also like to highlight that the CVRP program does have a dealership advisory board where we discuss these type of items to gather input from top dealers around the state. So if that's something you're interested in, please reach out to us and we should be having our next dealership advisory board meeting in the next couple of months here. Alrighty. So that wraps up our webinar for today. Here's everybody's contact information. Please take the time to write it down and reach out to us for any questions, concerns, or if you'd like to set up a virtual info session. I'll leave this up for a little bit and answer any questions that come through. So feel free to ask away right now. All right, it looks like we have a question from Jeremy. In talking about carbon footprints of each specific vehicle, do you have sustainability or green reports to compare between different brands? Customers sometimes ask what the process of how it's built or overall how the brand is environmentally helping reduce waste or recycling processes, etc. So a great tool for that I like to utilize is the fueleconomy.gov, which Coley covered. There's also a tool in there where you can compare cars side by side. So this will give you the annual amount of gas that is used, as well as the amount of emissions and rate it there. So you can compare up to 4 vehicles at once, actually, see side by side. As far as you know, the manufacturing of the vehicle, I think they're still working on developing tools to kind of track the sustainability efforts within that life cycle process. So keep an eye out for that, and I'm sure we'll have something soon to help support those kind of questions. Thanks, Jeremy. Does anybody else have any questions? Give it about 2 more minutes to see if anyone has any questions. All right, looks like we have a question in the chat. What is the best way to get in contact for a virtual info session? The best way to begin contact would be directly with your regional representative. Shoot us over an email with a couple of dates and times that work best for you, and we will plan accordingly. Again, we will be recording this webinar to send out, and you can share along with your dealership sales staff, but we also can provide this virtual information session to go over these PowerPoints and answer any specific questions you have. Alrighty, if there's no more questions, on behalf of the CVRP team, we would like to thank you for attending and for all the hard work you do to push the adoption of EVs to reach California's goals. Please don't hesitate to contact us with any questions or if you'd like to set up a virtual information session. Hope everyone has a great rest of the week and be well. Thanks again.